Hi, welcome back to Film Radio Reviews. This week we're looking at The Incredible Hulk. I just wanted to start out by saying Hulk is probably one of my favourite Avengers or Marvel characters overall because it's like a modern retelling of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde or Frankenstein and his monster. When you think of superheroes, you think of Boy Scouts like Captain America and Superman. You don't think of a hero whose power source is his anger. It's something that was quite deep at the time. It's like a unique spin that made me enjoy a character in a quite an interesting way. And I also enjoyed the old Hulk TV show as well, and I used to fast forward through the Ang Lee Hulk for all the action scenes with the army, and I had that on video. and Yeah, the comics with the Planet Hulk and World War Hulk, that whole saga, that's probably two of my favourite comics there. And with that said, I'll dive into The Incredible Hulk. The film was directed by Louis Leterrier. It starred Ed Norton, Liv Tyler, Tim Roth, and William Hurt. And to sum up the story, Bruce Banner, also the Hulk, is on the run and he's in Rio in Brazil. And he's hiding from General Ross and the US Army, who want to find the Hulk and kind of use his blood because it will help them build super soldiers and generally make their army stronger. And that was one of the reasons he fled the US, not only because of the Hulk's raw strength, but also because he knew if the army ever got their hands on him, they would use the Hulk's abilities as a weapon. And General Ross sends out Emil Blonsky, a new agent, on the hunt for Bruce Banner. And as he searches for him, in the end, Bruce has to flee from Rio. And he also believes, with a scientist named Samuel Stearns, together they can find a cure to stop him from turning green all the time. Along the way, Bruce is reunited with Betty, who is the love of his life. She also happens to be General Ross's daughter, but the reunion between Bruce and Betty, that moment where they're on the bridge, and he's trying to hide who he is from her, yeah, but she's kind of figured it out already. That little reunion between them is, if you're a Hulk fan and you know kind of the tragedy within their relationship, it's quite a touching moment. Even if you didn't really enjoy the movie that much, it's still, that moment shines to me through everything else really. And then they eventually go to Samuel Stearns and try to find the cure for Bruce. And at the same time, Emil Blonsky has been given the super soldier serum, which is the same serum used with Captain America. And then eventually he ends up fighting with Hulk, and Hulk basically knocks him out. Within a second, he kicks him into a tree, which I always gotta love. He gives him a moment of saying, like, "Is that it? Is that all you've got?" in that stereotypical accent. And Hulk just looks at him and just freaking kicks him like right into a tree. I always thought it was brilliant. But then eventually, once they do come across Samuel Stearns and they work on the cure, Bruce believes he is cured for a little while until Emil Blonsky then takes some of Bruce's blood and uses it to turn himself into a monster, and that's when he becomes the Abomination, who is the comic book counterpart to the Hulk. Bruce launches himself out of a plane with the hopes that Hulk is still in there somewhere, and he falls and falls, and it looks like he's not going to change, but of course he does. At this point, the Abomination's tearing up the streets of New York, and at that point, Hulk emerges from the ground where Banner fell, and they have a massive final CGI battle. And then obviously Betty gets caught up in it as well as with the General and others, and the Abomination tries to catch them. The Hulk stops them, and at that point he flees knowing that Betty's safe, and he goes back into hiding. First off, I would say compared to Iron Man 1, the tone of this movie is completely different. There aren't as many one-liners, it's nowhere near as campy, and you can tell the director's aiming for quite a serious tone. There are very few jokes. The only one I can really remember that sticks in my mind is when Betty gets Bruce like stretchy trousers. When he goes green, he gets bigger, of course, and his clothes rip up. So that was quite a funny gag in the film. But you know how Hulk is now in in Endgame when he's dabbing and shit. Like this Hulk in The Incredible Hulk and the Hulk in Endgame, they're two completely different things, and it feels like this is while they were still establishing the tone of the MCU, and maybe they weren't really sure where to take it still at this point, and that does reflect in the movie a little, I think, and that's why I think many consider it to be the odd one out compared to some of the other Marvel movies. As far as the performances are concerned, I feel like Ed Norton didn't really get to reflect his acting chops here. If you've seen him in Fight Club or American History X or any of the Wes Anderson movies he's in, you know what a good actor he is, and I just feel like his performance as Banner is very bland, and the characterization of Bruce Banner here is very bland compared to the old TV show at times. and the supporting cast really do carry the movie. Liv Tyler, William Hurt, and Tim Roth, they all have great performances. Even though Emil Blonsky, the Abomination, is a bit bland, Tim Roth manages to kind of deliver that role, that kind of one-sided antagonist. He still portrays it really well. Liv Tyler as Betty, she really, puts the emotion in, and I didn't feel like Ed Norton really did. And maybe that's because of the direction, because his character was kind of bland. But I also heard he was involved in the script, so whether this was a decision on his side or not, I don't know. But I just felt the performances, especially compared to Robert Downey Jr. in Iron Man and what's coming up as well, that his delivery here was probably kind of the weakest of all the protagonists. And it's a shame because he's a great actor, and with the right direction, he would have been a great Bruce Banner. But that's the path they didn't decide to take, as we know of Mark Ruffalo. I love the fight scenes in this movie. When the Hulk's on screen, you feel like he's really there. And compared to Ang Lee's Hulk in 2003, where he basically looks like Shrek in real life, it was nice to see kind of a more realistic and gritty Hulk. And up until I say the last fight, which does kind of become CGI overkill, you genuinely believe that he was there and he was a part of the scenery. But towards the end, with that final battle, I enjoy the scene where they're both running towards each other and they leap and try to hit each other in the head as they're going. But when they're actually on screen together, it's just too much CGI in one go, because at the time maybe they didn't have the budget, or maybe the technology just wasn't there yet. But that's when the suspension of disbelief kind of lost me there, I guess. And the other thing about the film, it has so many Easter eggs throughout it that really, if you're a Hulk fan, this is why you're going to enjoy this movie. Lou Ferrigno, who played the Hulk in the TV show, he has a cameo and he voices Hulk for the one line, which you probably know what it is. And at one point in the movie, you'll see there's a student and he has pizza, and this is at like I think it's the New York University. And a few movies later down the line, in Spider-Man: Homecoming, this is actually Peter Parker's chemistry teacher. So even though there seems like a bit of a disjointed thing between the Incredible Hulk and the MCU now, they're clearly trying to develop the links still, because this actor who was in the Incredible Hulk in like 2008 came back in 2017 to be in Spider-Man: Homecoming as a chemistry teacher. So there are those moments that I feel like over the years are going to interweave a little bit more. So when people say to me the Incredible Hulk isn't canon in the MCU, I'm a bit like, get out of here. It is. Whether it's like accepted entirely or not, I still consider it a part of the MCU. The thing about the movie really is that if you enjoy these Easter eggs and if you enjoy the effects, then you're probably going to have a good time. But if you're looking for where the plot's concerned and also some of the performances, I feel that's where the movie just fails to deliver compared to Iron Man 1 and compared to the other MCU movies. And I think that's why many consider it, like I said before, it's in the lower tier of the MCU movies. I'm not saying it's near the top, or anywhere near the higher tier for me, but I think at the time I did enjoy it a bit more than a lot of people did and probably still do, just because I'm a massive fan of the character. What you have to consider is everything that Marvel has done with the Hulk since this movie. Look at the Avengers, I'm always angry, that one line, and in Thor Ragnarok, the Quinjet scene. Those few moments, they have so much characterization in them in literally a few seconds compared to this movie, which is I think an hour and a half long. And in that time, they couldn't really build that much characterization that the rest of the Marvel movies have with the Hulk, even though he's not had a main movie since this. I still feel like we've got the best of the character. We've had the best experiences of the character's backstory, and that's been delivered through him being a supporting character or him having a shining part in the Avengers. That's been delivered through those moments. And I just wish the movie had explored that much more rather than focus on its plot, which was really quite generic. So, just to summarize, I love the action scenes, I love the design of the Hulk, and I love the delivery from all the supporting cast, even compared to Ed Norton's performance, which I just feel didn't really deliver, in my opinion. And the other thing I just wish that the MCU would kind of look at overall, just the relationship between Bruce and Betty, which is one of the biggest dynamics in the comics and in the whole character's history. I just wish that could be explored more. And I know they explore the same similar themes with the Black Widow story in Age of Ultron, but Betty Ross, Black Widow, they're two completely different characters, and you can't really use the dynamic between one couple and try to reflect it in another, because as the initial fan response I think demonstrated, that didn't really go the way they hoped it would, I suppose. But the thing with Incredible Hulk is it just failed to keep me engaged where the plot's concerned. And if it wasn't for the effects and everything else I said, then I wouldn't have been engaged throughout the movie. I'd probably rate it a 6 out of 10 overall. So thanks for watching. Click like if you did like the video, and click subscribe if you'd like to see more. Thank you.